Hello, welcome. I hope you'll join along as we plant our garden for the first time on a budget and prepare a beautiful, delicious, summer-inspired meal that I hope to soon be making from veggies out of our small backyard. If new here, I'm Haley Kim, a working mom of two, sharing family meal and motherhood content. If that sounds interesting to you, please like and subscribe to follow along. So for the planting, the whole family got involved, 3 generations. In an earlier video, I shared how we got to this point, garden bed, starting the seeds, mistakes, all of that, I'll card it above. But a bit of hay went on top of the oyster shells, and then a lot of organic dirt and compost mix that I got on sale at Costco. I think all 20 bags went in. With the first baby, I wouldn't really do as much as I constantly had to be watching him, but with my second, I've really learned that's not reasonable in life. I have to continue to do things I enjoy and just bring them along with the right expectations in mind, of course. I can't spend too much time at once on it, of course. I need to be prepared to get them involved or have other activities for them to do and accept as much help as I can get. With a lot of help comes a lot of opinions, though, of course. So my placement plan for the plants went out of the window. My dad talked me into planting a lot closer together, which I think will end up just fine, and I still kept to the companion planting idea. He had a big garden when we were growing up, so it has been really nice to have some advice and guidance along the way. The carrots are one of the only plants I sow directly, although zucchini also do like that. I just did 2 long rows of carrots under the bell peppers and tomatoes, as that gives some natural mulch to the bell peppers in the heat, and they don't compete for root space. My oldest really loved every aspect of this, helping out, playing in the dirt, making mud soup. I cannot think of a better activity for him. He's part of the process and invested. It's building his confidence too, and it's the perfect sensory play. Coming back from vacation, he didn't want to sleep. He was so excited to see the garden that had actually grown exponentially in the warmer nights. It was priceless to watch him as he ran to the garden to water it, and it's worth having to wash his clothes twice during this. I'm sharing this as I hope it encourages anyone else wanting to pursue something, but with demanding little ones at the same time. You never know what you will find if you just give it a try. But with all that planted, the next day we went back to the lovely garden center to get the rest of the herbs and plants. My son was super excited to be in control of the cart again. I got a few more bell pepper plants, lavender, mint, cucumber, and zucchini. I could not find organic heirloom this late in the season, and that's the nice thing about seeds, as that's easier to find and have control over. But I've already learned a lot this year and could be more prepared next year. We got all that in the ground by early May, and I think I will do it a little bit earlier next year. I was looking into a trellis and some cages for the tomatoes on Amazon, but my dad came up with this really cheap option that I'm sure saved me at least $80. The tomato and bell peppers can grow up these strings attached to our fence. I might need a cage for the bigger tomato plant, but we'll see. For the cucumbers to grow up, he staked these really long poles in the ground and got this trellis from the scrap pile. The cucumbers should hang below it too to make harvest really easy. After planting, a ton of bugs and flies were around, so I put down this organic dye-free mulch that really helped with that problem, and it was another fantastic activity for kids. As for what we exactly planted, I have some Korean chives for our kimchi, lavender, basil, and marigold all outside the bed. Then inside, a few bell pepper varieties, cherry tomatoes, which we've already picked a few, was the first thing that actually came out. And then zucchini that are struggling and hoping it's because of the transplant, and a few Cherokee tomatoes and more bell peppers along the back. And then in the middle, a row of carrots and onions. I need to figure out why one side is doing so much better. And I think next year for the onions, I'll just place them randomly around the garden. Then mint, one little lettuce plant from my seedlings. It's a bit hot for it now though. More Korean chives and our cucumbers, which are looking great. Plus a little more sage and basil here. With summer here and all the fresh produce coming out, I wanted to make something a little seasonal and special for our dinner tonight. I'm going to make a zucchini and ricotta tart along with a peach cobbler. Hopefully we're going to have zucchinis from our garden soon. So I've just got a peeler here and going to make some long shaves on these to go into the tart. You really want to try to make these as thick as possible. In the weekend, I always try to make one dessert just to kind of make it special and memorable for my kids. When I was growing up, we would always have like steak and potatoes on Saturday. It always felt like a treat, but I'm trying to do that with like a special new meal and a dessert. This tart is super easy, especially if you don't bother making the puff pastry from scratch. After the zucchinis are cut, add a generous amount of salt and olive oil, then mix the ricotta sauce, which is ricotta, lemon zest from 1 lemon, lemon juice from half a lemon, and you could do more based on preference, then a lot of pepper and whisk it all together. I picked some fresh basil from our garden to go into. I made a little cucumber salad with a cucumber my niece was so excited to give me from her friend's garden. She watches these videos and then kind of acts like she's doing her own video, which is the cutest thing. I always try to clean up the kitchen a few times along the way so it doesn't pile up and get overwhelming. My husband's mom sends these Korean scrubbers that really work so well cleaning almost anything. Dishes and a lot of random things around the house like hardened food on the walls, floors, etc. I'll link some similar ones too if I can remember. Then I cleaned the peaches for the peach cobbler with a little bit of baking soda to try to help get the pesticides off as these were not organic. Most nights I do a bit of meal prep instead of all in one day. The previous night I had made the puff pastry for the tart and started on the peach cobbler biscuits. I've learned to make this enjoyable and less like a chore by making the environment more cozy and really just changing my mindset. I need to feed our family, and this is a time I can be more relaxed in the kitchen without kids always calling mama or someone pulling at my clothes, and that's really nice too. I really like these beeswax candles. They help with general odor but don't have any of the nasty ingredients candles sometimes have. Got started on the tart by cubing some salted butter to chill in the fridge while I made the base of the sourdough peach cobbler. The sourdough starter had been in the fridge and was really tight, so I just mixed in a little water to help this come together easier. I always feed and mix my sourdough starter after using it, so I don't have to clean this spurtle twice. One with the dough and then one again after I need to feed the starter. I've read that sourdough isn't really good for your sink drain and all the pipes, so I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful here. I found this spurtle on Amazon for $5 that I'll link. It's really more useful than most of the items I've found in my Normala spatula set, and I use it a lot of outside of just sourdough as well. Into the discard goes honey, melted but cooled coconut oil and flour. I subbed in some whole wheat flour to make it more nutritious, and then just wrapped it up and let it sit out on the counter overnight. For the tart puff pastry, I really tried to limit the number of pulses, so I put half the butter into the flour and then did a few pulses, added the rest of the butter, pulsed a few times again, added the ice water and a few more pulses, and that was it. The dough was pretty separated as I didn't want to overpulse it, but it ultimately came together and I was able to roll it out into a large rectangle, trying to keep the edges together as I went, and folded in both sides and then made it into a square. I wrapped it up to store in the fridge overnight, and that was all I needed to do at night. Back to the next day, my little helper came along to help cut all the peaches. He loves cutting any fruit or vegetable when I'm up there doing it, and he's really improved over the last 6 months. He knows how to cut them and always makes it entertaining, either through little jokes like these or the commentary. I'll link the recipe, but I drizzled some maple syrup on, added a few tablespoons of butter, which might be my son's favorite food. He goes mad when he sees it, and then some flour and cinnamon. A little taste test was necessary, of course, and I think he thought the flour was sugar here. He kept calling this peach cobbler instead of peach cobbler, which made it seem like such a more fancy dessert than what it is. In the meantime, I wanted to roll out the puff pastry, but it was hard as a rock from sitting in the fridge. I'd never done it before, like the night before, so I didn't think about needing to sit it out on the counter for a while to soften, but lesson learned. We could not make it budge, so I warmed it up, and the only thing that could loosen it was my husband, thankfully. It's hard not to get stressed in these moments, especially when the kids are hungry, but I was able to finally get it rolled into a rectangle, also careful to keep the edges smooth, and then the peaches came out and I gave that a good mix to set aside. Our kitchen was pretty much covered in flour at this point, but the pastry goes on a parchment paper for the fun part of assembling. As a team, the ricotta mixture went inside the border, a layer of zucchini, sliced garlic, and then another layer of zucchini, and then a little pat and egg wash around the sides. I baked it at 400 for around 25. I think it ended up being closer to 30 minutes, but just until the edges are nice and brown. While the tart cooked, we mixed the other dry ingredients for the sourdough cobbler biscuits. I had also put this in the fridge in the morning as I did not want it to get too sour. Again, this is against the recipe though, but I took it out and it was a brick hard, a recurring problem here this night. So I warmed it up a bit, crumbled it, and then mixed in the other ingredients. Didn't turn out to be the prettiest biscuits, but it still tasted really good. Again, I would set this out a few hours before, like the tart. When starting to cook and bake from scratch, you realize you don't have to follow a recipe exactly, and you can modify to suit whatever your needs are. My children are small and don't love the sour taste and really fermented sourdough products, so I just try to adjust, and I'm learning along the way. I was a bit over our normal dinner time, so the kids were super hungry by this point, but that means they ate well. The tart turned out so good and was worth the effort. I served it with some homemade pesto from the fresh basil from the garden that I had made the previous night to go with some chicken meatball soup, and it paired extremely well.
Please, 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 please.
Everyone was super excited for the cobbler too and seemed super happy after this really lovely meal, and we could have the cobbler throughout the week. It was such a nice treat to kind of have after dinner some nights.
Turn around. Turn around.
The zucchini plants are the only thing really struggling right now, and I hope some fertilizer will help. Please comment if you know what's going on with these or of a good website to help diagnose vegetable plants. I should have fertilized when I planted, but again, learning as I go. I'll add this once a month, especially since I planted pretty close together. I'm using some veggie spoma fertilizer that I will just spread around the edges, and my dad also gave me another one I'm going to try. This evening I noticed that we now have fireflies, which is amazing. I didn't realize gardens attract them. I remember having them as a child and loving them. I can't wait to get the boys out to see them one evening. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to follow along for more family meal and motherhood content.